wasn't clear, the picture of just how bad it is, like 1 million Tibetan children in colonial boarding schools in Tibet. My name is Lhadon Tethong. I'm the director and co-founder of Tibet Action Institute. Tibet Action Institute is committed to training Tibetans in the use of digital security tools and best practices in the Tibet movement to fight for rights and freedom inside Tibet. We decided that this really was critical moving forward, that Tibetans inside could do and would do so much if they just had the tools. And so that's really what we founded Tibet Action, to do that and to try to bring up the level of the nonviolent battle that Tibetans have been waging for freedom for 7 decades.
A report out from the Tibet Action Institute that says the Chinese government has been using policies to force Tibetan children.
China's constructed a massive colonial boarding school system in occupied Tibet. They have nearly all Tibetan students between the ages of 4 and 18 in residential schools, being removed from your parents and families and culture and language, with a very harsh identity erasing curriculum and life.
I missed my family, but I couldn't cry, and I couldn't talk to other students and teachers because I didn't know Chinese then. There were many other children who missed their families and cried too. Some of the younger ones often woke up in the middle of the night crying, and they would run to the school gate.
Tibet Action Institute, our report was really we were sort of the first to sound the alarm on this system. By releasing this report and gaining sort of global attention on the issue of the colonial boarding schools in Tibet, we've been able to break through the enforced silence and really put an end to this campaign to sort of erase Tibet. This is really critical that we sort of keep the pressure on, keep the spotlight on, and find new and creative ways to challenge them both in and outside of Tibet. This is all about rights and freedom. We will be a nation and we will regain our rights, our freedom. It's only impossible till it's not.
Welcome to the stage, Representative Peter Roscoe.
Have you noticed something about our culture? We are an easily distracted people. The proof of this is an anecdote from this morning. I met a colleague for breakfast who arrived 5 minutes before I did, and when I walked in, he had his laptop open, he was scrolling the internet, he was sending emails, and he was on the phone, and as I came in, he gave me that word. Now that's funny, and I teased him, and I gave him a hard time, but when that happens on a global basis, and we lose the attention that we need to pay to serious issues because of distraction, that's no joke. One of the things that the Tibet Action Institute did was put the idea of Tibetan sovereignty back on the map. Because here's the challenge. It was fading away somewhat. And through their report, through the report that said that the Chinese government was forcing Tibetan children into a system of boarding schools, not out of benevolence, not out of a notion of, hey, how can we help you, but through cultural malevolence, through a desire to erase Tibetan culture and put it aside. That was the agenda, and that's a shameful thing. And the Tibet Action Institute was able to capture that information, raise a report, put it out into the public, and refocus the public's attention on this vital issue. And in listening to the programs tonight, it struck me that there's one thing worse than suffering. And the worst thing than suffering is suffering in anonymity, when nobody knows what's going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great joy on behalf of the National Endowment for Democracy to present this 2024 Democracy Award to the Tibet Action Institute. So please welcome Lhadon Tethong and Dr. Gyal Lo. Congratulations.
Thank you, NED. This is not only a great recognition of our work, but also the great encouragement in fighting for democracy, human rights, and freedom for the future generations of Tibet.
I will speak on behalf of Dr. Gyal Lo and our entire Tibet Action team. I also want to say thank you to the distinguished board and staff of NED. It is incredibly meaningful for us to be here tonight alongside the democratically elected leader of the Tibetan people, Sikyong Pemba Tserinla. We accept this award as a recognition of the heroic resistance that generation after generation of Tibetans has waged under the leadership of His Holiness, the great 14th Dalai Lama, against China's illegal occupation of our homeland. The story of China and Tibet is not actually a story of subjugation and defeat, but rather it's a David versus Goliath epic that's gone on for 70 years, and as of yet, remains unfinished. No matter the odds, Tibetans resist. We see this in the uprisings of 1956, 1958, 59, of massive protests through 1969, 87, 88, 89, and even 2008, when the stakes were highest for Beijing in the lead up to the Olympic Games. Even after the military clampdown following the 08 uprising, with PLA troops posted in cities, towns, and villages across Tibet, a young monk named Tape lit his body on fire and set off a wave of these painful actions, with more than 160 Tibetans engaging in this unprecedented protest movement. The reason Tibetan resistance has continued unbroken until now is because Tibetans are a proud people with a great civilization and several thousand years of history, and because the PRC assault on our people has continued unabated. Even when China was doing business with the rest of the world, seemingly getting along, cooperating, and being a somewhat responsible member of the international community, Tibetans knew they were hiding their strength, biding their time, and building their wealth and their power. We knew this because Tibet has always been the canary in the coal mine for China. China's treatment of Tibet has always been a sign or a warning for the rest of the world of the dangers ahead. In its invasion in 1949-50, the rewriting of history, redrawing of maps, we see the earliest signs of the threat the PRC would one day pose to peace and security in our world. In the imposition of martial law in March of 1989, we see foreshadowing of the Tiananmen Square massacre. And in the brutal crackdown on the 08 uprising and the subsequent sealing off of the entire Tibetan plateau, we saw the signals that even in the 21st century, life in China too could be restricted and controlled to the point of being effectively closed to the rest of the world. Something nearly unthinkable until it wasn't. And now today, we're here because the PRC continues its onslaught in Tibet. When we say at least 1 million children are now separated from their parents and made to live in the genocidal boarding school system, we're speaking of 80% of all Tibetan school-age children from as young as age 4. I have 4-year-old twins. Many of you have children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews. We can imagine how unbearable it must be to send such tiny little ones to live apart from the care and protection of their families. Dr. Gyal Lo doesn't have to imagine. An educational sociologist from Tibet who escaped to Canada in 2021, his own grandnieces were sent away to a boarding preschool in 2016. He witnessed them turning into strangers in their own home, alienation by design. It's one of the most insidious colonial strategies. And it is a clear escalation by China in Tibet as they target every pillar of Tibetan identity for elimination. Together with the Uyghur genocide, the fall of Hong Kong, the threats against Taiwan, many are asking, how do we get here? How did it get this bad? We've arrived at this moment of truth with China, not because Chinese leaders have changed. They are exactly who they've always been: unelected, unaccountable, illegitimate. This is the heart of the problem. This is what must be addressed. This is the core issue at hand. Human rights, democracy, and freedom must be at the center of the solutions and strategies sought by the foreign policy community and our leaders. How do we know this? Or how do we do this? People often assume this has to mean violence or military intervention, but that's not it either. The answer lies with the people and those who've already spoken up and risked everything for these values. It lies with Tibetans, Uyghurs, Southern Mongolians, Hong Kongers, and the Chinese citizens themselves, the ones we saw in Tiananmen Square and during the White Paper Revolution. World leaders need to stand with them more directly, clearly, and boldly, more as a central part of the plan, and they need to focus on making them stronger and bolstering their confidence and helping them succeed. They need to focus less on Xi Jinping and his cronies and trying not to upset them or just to build relations using the same failed approaches of the past. We need to think beyond them. As Dr. Gyal Lo says, change is coming, whether we're ready or not, and we need to be ready. He also says this award is a good omen. In Tibetan, we say, Temde Sangbo. As we continue, Tibetans continue our journey of resistance towards the triumph of democracy, human rights, and freedom in Tibet. Thank you.